Ennis has again dropped down the rankings of the cleanest towns in the country. The latest Irish Businesses Against Litter survey ranks Ennis in 19th position, down 4 places from the beginning of the year. And for more on that, I'm joined on the line by Conor Horgan, who is the spokesperson for IBAL, Irish Businesses Against Litter. Good morning to you, Conor.
Good morning, Alan.
Thanks very much for being with us. Not the kind of glowing news we want to discuss from our perspective. So how significant is Ennis's fall from 15th to 19th? What does it tell us about the town's overall cleanliness?
Well, I would say it's not that significant. I mean, the margins at the top are very tight. From our point of view, we want all our towns and cities to be clean, and Ennis is consistently clean. Now, I know the expectations in the town are higher than that, and that's a great thing. And Ennis is a former winner. When I look at the report from An Taisce, 5 of the 10 sites surveyed got the top litter grade. That's a little low. That's saying that 5 of those sites were virtually free of litter. They include O'Connell Street, Abbey Street Car Park. Both of those came in for much praise. The Clare Museum area, Connolly Villas, and the Tulla Road approach. They were all grade A. Now, the other sites were a mix. There were some sites that just fell short of grade A. The Riverwalk and Promenade at the Russell's Corn Stores, the Deposit Return Scheme facility at Dunn Stores. They would take very little work to bring them up. Market Square as well was an attractive area. Some food-related litter led to it missing the top-level grade. Chewing gum was prevalent there. But there were a number of worrying sites. The vacant site on Bank Place was subject to a degree of dumping. It will only deteriorate if not addressed, in sharp contrast to the surrounding buildings. I'm quoting there from the report. And then finally, the services area for tire and water at the Certa on the Tulla Road was it suffered from heavy levels of all manner of litter and some dumped bags, which seemed to be long lie, indicating that there hadn't been cleaning for some time. So those are 2 particular areas that need to be addressed. And if they were to be addressed next time out, you'd probably have Ennis back within the top 10.
Yeah, because in fairness, across all those 10 locations, 5 of them in the A grade, just the 2 you mentioned there, laterally, the vacant site in Bank Place and that services area for tire and water at the Certa on the Tulla Road. The only, I suppose, areas of real concern, Conor, I mean, overall, that sounds relatively fixable in terms of where Ennis is.
I mean, and I always like to see that, Alan, where really a town is brought down by just 1 or 2 sites because you're thinking the local authority can tackle them. Whereas other sites, if you've moderately littered or littered sites throughout, it's going to be a harder job to raise the overall cleanliness level.
I suppose for those, and you think of like various tidy towns committees and so on, when they look at the table and they see 19th, that seems, in terms of the overall ranking, it's mid-ranking more or less. And I guess they'll be dismayed when they consider the efforts they've put in. But when there are 5 A grades out of 10, I suppose from your perspective, is it a case of focus on the positives, acknowledge where the work needs to be done, but not to get too downhearted at seeing where, that you're in 19th?
So. Well, yeah, I wouldn't think so much. And again, it is the fact, how did our grade get brought down? It was because of 2 specific sites here that really have nothing to do with tidy towns. If there was dumping going on at this particular Certa facility, that is something for the local authority to address. It would be different if there was widespread moderate littering throughout a village or throughout a town. That, I think, would be more disheartening. Here, I think, and we see this, the tidy towns will often put the pressure on the local authority not to bring down their work, but by addressing those 2 sites that need tackling.
One of the 5 A grades was for O'Connell Street. The report's very complimentary about the public realm works in O'Connell Street, which were very much discussed here whilst they were going on. Does that demonstrate, Conor, the value of investing in town centre improvements?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the line you're talking about, it says the recent enhancement works at O'Connell Square were looking very well. A real addition to the town of Ennis. Now, bear in mind, this is a visitor coming in from An Taisce who's just conveying the overall impression they get. So clearly that impression is enhanced by this work that is being carried out. The works which were undertaken a few years ago have certainly paid dividends. Again, I'm quoting there again. So there's no doubt that the impression for the overall town is enhanced by these individual improvements.
We spoke with you last time about the types of litter that are most commonly found, and I know, for example, in the example of the services area and the Tulla Road, there was dumped bags of rubbish, which I'm sure you find in plenty of other locations as well. But in terms of, on streets and high streets, you highlighted vapes and coffee cups previously. Is that still a concern, be it in parts of Clare, but just more generally nationwide?
Yeah, generally the litter composition, as we call it, doesn't change much. The most striking factor this time round was the increase in cigarette butts, which were found in over a third of all sites. Now, I'm not saying that there was a single cigarette butt. That would have been an accumulation of butts. But it's something we haven't talked about much. It's clearly still a problem, and cigarette butts aren't as visual or as obvious as other forms of litter, but they are very harmful. They're toxic. They're single-use plastic. They contaminate the environment, both the marine environment and the land environment. So we definitely should think twice before flicking that cigarette butt, or indeed we should say it to other people if we see them offending. So that would be one change. You mentioned coffee cups. We've seen an increase in coffee cup litter at a time when we're always expecting this form of litter to wane. It's clearly here permanently unless we do something about it. I've been talking all morning about a latte levy, which was on the government's desk, but it's no longer on the desk, and they've sort of signalled they've no interest in pursuing it. It is a pity that we have to talk about a levy to incentivise people to use a refillable cup, because really it should be quite obvious. And I see people myself on their coffee routine every morning, and it is a routine, and you would think a refillable cup is part of that routine. But no, a disposable cup is bought every morning, even though they're going to the same park to sit down, and you would say it would be easy for them to bring along a refillable cup. So I think it's almost a bit of an indictment of us as a society that we have to talk about a levy to wean us off refillable cups, to wean us off disposable cups.
Yeah, it is indeed. But I guess, look, whatever it takes to change people's mindset and habits, if it has a positive effect, that has to be welcomed. Just before I let you go, Conor, I suppose in summary, given Ennis's track record over the years, 19th now, down 4 places, is there any reason why the town couldn't return to the top 10 or even be up in the higher echelons challenging for the top spot again in the near future?
There's no reason. We're going to revisit the 2 offending sites now later in the year, with the expectation that they will have been tackled by the council. And if that happens, we will see Ennis back inside the top 10.
OK, we do have to leave it there. Hopefully that is the case. Conor Horgan, spokesperson for IBAL. Thanks very much for joining us once again, Conor.
Thank you, Alan.
And it's time to turn to our mystery guest, which is the Ennis Tidy Towns rep, the Ennis Fine Gael councillor, Mary Howard. Mary, how are you?
I've been better.
Oh God, you sound like you need a lemsip, but hopefully you can power on through for us over the next few minutes. I mean, look, you're someone who's very concerned with cleanliness and litter, and hopefully how litter-free Ennis is. What's your reaction to that latest IBAL report?
I was waiting for this to come out last night, and it came out about 11:30, and I was really disappointed, because I think Ennis is looking extremely well. This time last year we were in second position. Nace won it. Nace seemed to have dropped off. I went through your list there a few minutes ago. They seem to have dropped off the list entirely, which is extraordinary.
Doesn't it show how movable it is, though, Mary? Like, I mean, over 10 locations, you would say 5A's is really good. It's just 2 places in particular that can drag you a good few positions down the table.
It is totally random, like going in, to Connolly Villas, and in fairness to residents up there, exercise huge civic pride, always keep the place well. They which is wonderful to see. But then Market Square, some food related litter behind a tree. Now, the trees in the market aren't that big, so I don't know. I'd love to know how much food-related litter was there.
Yeah, it does say some food. I mean, that could be a small bit or a fair bit, but it does highlight chewing gum was particularly prevalent, which is always a blight on streets and in terms of litter.
That's worrying, and I'm wondering why is the reason there on Market Square that they, and I'll bring that up later on with the council. The Riverwalk, they're talking about Russell's Corn Store. I don't know where that place is. And again, wooden pallets and a plastic bag by the Russell's Corn Store. The remainder of the Riverwalk was very good with regards to litter. I'm assuming that vacant site that they're speaking about, or they're referencing on Bank Place, is the analogue building beside the post office. Yeah,
Conor didn't mention. He mentioned the certain degree of dumping. There's also he didn't touch on. The report says it was characterised by broken windows, and this will likely only deteriorate if not addressed. It's in sharp contrast to the surrounding buildings. Yeah,
which is a shame, and it is an eyesore, and it's a building that has been on my list. It's a bugbear of mine. That it needs to be either removed or completely renovated. It's there for many, many years and it's been sitting idle. But again, it's privately owned. The deposit return scheme last year, Dunn's was this time last year, Dunn's was the weakest link, I suppose, for Ennis, and it's great to see that there has been an improvement there. But the reality is that you have a town of 30,000 people that are using, X amount of bring banks. And when I read the overall report, they spoke an awful lot about still finding cans and bottles quite prevalent. Even after the deposit return scheme has been introduced, and it has been a runaway success in my book, we're not coming across the same level of littering of those around the town of Ennis, and we have the holders around the bins for you can leave the can or the plastic bottle there for somebody who can collect it, and that has been quite a success.
Yeah, it has, and just on that, because the report says, the deposit return scheme at Dunn's got a B+ grade. It says a much improved site compared to the last IBAL visit last year. This time around, it very much deserved the top litter grade, but mineral cans and plastic bottles have been left on top of the facility, which I presume, if it says it very much deserved the top litter grade, that's what dragged it down from A to B+, but there must have been a considerable amount of them when it says that it deserved the top litter grade but then gets B+.
Yeah, that was
those
disappointing.
Fine margins, I suppose.
And you do see mineral cans and plastic bottles being left around, some of them that won't scan. People, even though there's usually a bin, and there is a bin very, very near that you think they would just walk a few paces and pop them in the bin.
Out of all the 10 locations, though, the lowest grade was for the services area at the Certa on the Tulla Road. What do you make of that?
Again, very disappointing, but the reality is that there was a shop there and there's been construction work has been going on there. Now, I know it's on our radar with Tidy Towns, and regularly we would have a couple of volunteers who would go over there and do a bit of work in that area. It's privately owned site, but there is the building was completely gutted, and I don't think it's manned at all. There is a car wash facility there, I'm almost sure, but it is very disappointing to see that, and it's something I know that the council will be following up with the owners of the building. As regards cigarette butts, it's disappointing to hear that they are prevalent. Because certainly vaping, and my bugbear at the moment with vaping is a little white sticker that people, when they go by their vapes, they stick the sticker on the outside of the bin as opposed to putting it into the bin, and that drives me around the bend. But the disposal,
the discarding the vapes themselves, particularly those big chunky ones, and you think of all the, I suppose, batteries and things in those as well. That's just a real concern from a littering perspective. Mary, overall, I mean, what can realistically be done to address the problem sites, and how influential will this latest IBAL report be in terms of influencing priorities for both Ennis Tidy Towns and the local authority over the coming months?
Well, both Ennis Municipal District and Ennis Tidy Towns really take heed of this, and they will be, absolutely trying to identify where that corn store is. That's on my head at the moment, or in my mind. But it always becomes a priority. any issue that they do bring up and they do highlight. I remember one of my very first times coming in here to you about the IBAL report around Clare FM was many, many years ago, and the community college at the time had just removed Leylandii trees on the roundabout side, and they were literally just removed. And obviously they were huge trees, and underneath them there was debris that was there for many, many years. And that was referenced, and that was only there for a couple of days because the site was cleared.
So it was just
quickly.
Bad timing, basically.
It was awful timing. And that, to me, considering the amount of work that was going on in the school at the time and how much brighter those classrooms would be without those trees, that this was what, and IBAL is literally just litter. So as regards Tidy Towns is much broader.
Yeah.
It's all about biodiversity and sustainability and sustainable communities. So but it gives us a lot of work to do. There's work to be done there by all of us. And I just want to say, like last year, one site that was it was this time last year, because I think this time last year we came second, but there was two sites. The Dunn site was referenced, and also a small business park off Tulla Road. And I was invited up to meet a bunch of young people there, and they've actually adopted that area now. So they're going out there litter picking, and they now want to put in a wildflower bed, and they want to put in a bench and a picnic table, which is fantastic, and it's great to see them doing that. So, we'll work on this. This is certainly something for all of us to be cognizant of. As I said last night when I saw that we were 19th, I was very disappointed, because it is a consistently clean town. There is no doubt about it. We have amazing volunteers. We have schools and businesses that take real pride in their area and in their town and in their street and their estate. But this is, as I said, is totally random where they go to, and it's just disappointing to see that we're a slip down to 19th.
And look, I think, when you look at a league table, it's like, if you looked at the Premier League table, the gap in points between 1st and 19th is quite a lot. But in this kind of a table, there's slimmer, finer margins. If you can drop from second last year to 19th this time around, I wouldn't imagine there's much between that position and the higher echelons of the table. But as Conor has highlighted, and you have as well, look, areas to work on, but they're very, very achievable. So onwards and upwards, I guess. Mary, thank you very much.
Watch this space.
For being our mystery guest this morning. Mary Howard there, the Ennis Tidy Towns rep and the Ennis Fine Gael councillor, with us on Morning Focus. Please come on the show again.